Hey guys, and how's it going? So, just a little update. I'm back home at my dad's house. I decided to liquidate most of my vintage electronics, my vintage stereo equipment, and stuff like that. I think that the money would be better invested in a savings account, which I don't have, and I'm going to need to be buying another vehicle or make repairs to this one eventually. So I feel like the money would be better invested in that in emergency situations or something like that. But I wanted to talk to you today about something that I don't think I brought up before, and that I'm a licensed wildlife rehabilitator. I'm licensed by the state of New York. I'm a class one. There's two classes, and then there's different certifications that you can get beyond that. But I'm a class one. I am not rabies vector certified. So I handle basically like squirrels, chipmunks, foxes, coyotes, stuff like that. I've been licensed since June of last year. I have not been very busy. I think I've had a mouse and like 3 squirrels. And so I want to talk about my most recent call, which was this weekend, and kind of what went down and what's going to happen with that. So Friday night, I'm relaxing at home, and I get a phone call about that 25 minutes from here, and it's way, way out in the woods where I had to go. That there was a fox in this guy's yard. It was across the street from his house, and the DEC officer was there. They weren't sure what had happened to it. They assumed that it had been hit by a vehicle, but they weren't sure. And so the DEC officer told them to call me. And so at that time, I was waiting on some other things that were going on. I had somebody stopping by to pick some stuff up. And so I told them I'd be about an hour. An hour later, I get out there. Again, it's about a 25-minute drive. There's no cell service out here. So I'm on my own. And I get there, I see the fox in the yard across the house. He's just sitting there on his butt, tail wrapped around. Beautiful fox, gray fox. And you don't see a lot of gray foxes up here, even though they are native species. You most likely see red foxes, which are actually introduced species. So it's very rare you see a gray fox. But anyway, so I asked the guy how long it's been there. He didn't know. He didn't know really anything about it, just that he had a fox in his yard that's hanging out and won't leave. So I approach the fox. I get about 10 feet from it, and it takes off on me. And the guy has a couple of outbuildings across from his house, across the road from his house. There's a shed and a garage, and the fox kind of just runs behind the shed. And so I'm like, okay, well, he's got enough strength to run away from me. And I don't have a net or anything like that. That's not how I deal with animals like that. It just stresses them out even more. And if they're injured, they could injure themselves more, or possibly it could kill them. So that's not my goal. And so I asked the guy if it would be okay to leave the fox alone for the night. And if the fox is still there the next morning, that he would give me a call. And so I left. And it bothered me the rest of the night that I couldn't, because I knew there was something wrong with the fox. When he ran away from me, he was limping. So I knew there was something wrong. I didn't know what, but I knew that there was something wrong with him. And so I went back the next morning. I'm sorry. I called a colleague of mine who's a class 2, who is about 45 minutes from me, that I take my animals to, because I don't have the facilities to keep animals. I can go get them and get them to another place, but I don't have the facilities to keep them myself. So this is a lady that I work with quite a bit. And so I called her and I told her what was going on. She said, well, if there's no blood, there's no obvious signs of injury, just kind of leave it be. I hang up the phone, and the people call me back, and they said that they had found the fox in the middle of the road, and that they had put a fox in a bin, and the bin was on their porch, and that it didn't seem like it was doing well. Okay, so I drove back out to the house, and I just, say, hey, I'm here to pick up the fox. Uh, Initial assessment was the fox was very stiff, very erratic breathing, was not with me, was not, alert or anything like that. Not dehydrated, but not very good color. Examined the gums, and the color was very gray. So at that point, I was assuming internal injuries, possibly internal bleeding, and he was going into shock. So I treated him for shock and gave him an anti-inflammatory medication from an emergency kit that I keep with me. I called Judy, who is at Woodhaven Wildlife Center, and she tells me to bring him down immediately, which I do. And so I get him there. He survives that trip. I get him there and get him situated, get him comfortable. She assesses him again. He's very stiff, but you can still move his limbs. Nothing appears to be broken. So at this point, we're assuming internal injuries. So we're blessed enough to have Cornell University's Wildlife Hospital near us. And so at that point in time, this is Saturday now, Cornell was not available till Monday. And so we made him as comfortable as we possibly could. And I left. I get a phone call a little bit later that the fox had had a seizure. And so she had called Cornell, and Cornell asked them to bring the fox down immediately. Unfortunately, on the trip down, the fox passed away. Now, at this point, with no obvious signs of injury, you want to do a necropsy, but it's up to the DEC, not up to Cornell, whether a necropsy gets done. And so there's a couple of things that they would examine for, especially in the fox population where I live, and that is avian influenza and also toxoplasmosis. And they have become quite prevalent in the fox population here. And so last I knew, they were going to perform a necropsy, and I am still waiting on the results of that. They may also be testing for rabies, and so that is another possibility. But that is just one of my adventures, I suppose you could say, as a wildlife rehabilitator. When I moved down to the island, I'm actually connected with a rehabilitation center down there, and I plan on volunteering my services with them going forward. So I'm very excited. And this doesn't have anything to do with my job with state parks. This is something that I do as a volunteer, as a community service, and it's something I really enjoy. And if you live in New York, the test is coming up, I believe, April 8th. And you basically can just read a book and take the test, and then it's a lot of hands-on learning, but it's a lot of fun, and you meet some great people. Anyway, take care, guys, and I'll talk to you later.